Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to the Bricks King podcast, where I'm going to bend your ear about Lego, review those amazing bricks of plastic, and discuss what is new and up and coming around the Lego world. I'm your minifig host, Matt. Let's build on it. Welcome in, everybody. How are we doing today? Hopefully you're doing quite well. We are finally able to discuss. It is built. It has been ready to go. We are talking about the new PAC-MAN Arcade. Man, is this baby sweet or what? So here are the details that you need to know. The set number is 10323. It is labeled PAC-MAN Arcade. It does have 2,651 pieces. It has a pretty decent price tag at $270, 270 euros. Now, let's talk about what this build really has to offer. Yes, if you are somebody that has been a die-hard Pac-Man fan or somebody that has been a big-time arcade fan, you go back, decades and decades, there's just nothing quite like old school games like this. And you have an opportunity here to kind of go back through that nostalgia. Last year, we got the Atari. I think the year before that was the NES. May have been 2 years before that. My God, I'm hoping that a Sega comes out, next. That would be incredible. I'd love another, kind of game like Pac-Man that just, it's just so incredible, so iconic. So there's a few different things about this set. And the first one I wanted to touch on is the first few bags that you build is kind of a little, it's a desktop ornament, basically is what it is. It's a paperweight, but it's a very cool looking paperweight and it actually has an action function to it. So let's go ahead and talk about that first. All right. So what you need to know first off about this thing is it's probably, 6-7 inches long and only a few inches wide. But it's about an inch tall. Now, we do have new tiles that are specifically just for this set. We have a lot of the blue tiles. Well, I think we've had these before, but blue that has black on them. But we also have the 1x1 round tiles that have the characters of the Pac-Man game. You have Pac-Man and you have the 4 different colored ghosts. You have red, you have orange, you have pink, and you have the blue. Now, on the inside of this thing, that is where all of the magic happens. So the back of this thing, which is technically the bottom of it, does come off. And I will tell you this, do make sure that everything works as it is intended to 100%, because if you don't, you go put the back on, you're going to be kind of disappointed. Anyway, I didn't have any problems. So we have 3 big gears that are in here and you have 2 small gears. There is a little plunger in the back, and what that does is it activates the rubber band to be able to turn these gears, to be able to turn your dudes up top. All 3 of your characters, which you have your Pac-Man, your very big brick-built Pac-Man, and your orange and red ghosts are all brick-built. They are on top of those big gears. So the plunger is from the rear. When you press it, they all spin around. So what is funny is Pac-Man is, if you're looking at it from the front, is looking to the left with the ghosts to the rear. Now, when you press it, the ghosts turn blue and he is looking to the right, looking to eat them, which I think is absolutely incredibly well done. I'm just a big fan of it. So when you do go through the process of building this part, there is a unique spot in this where you're going to have a brain moment like I did and not understand what in the hell was going on. You have I think it's a 2x14, maybe 2x16 long plate in tan. And then you have a little Technic piece and you have 2x2 pink plates. I'm like, okay, well, what are we doing here? So you essentially use it to hold on to where Pac-Man is. And the reason it is you are trying to keep things lined up. So when gears go into place, things are not all over the place and your guys are turning in a different fashion and function and stuff like that. Well, I didn't know that until I went steps down the way and I'm like, oh, this is why we did it. This is why we did it. So if you are curious, when you get to that point, that is the exact reason why. I actually built that part on stream on Twitch. So there were some people there who were like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Anyway, so your brick built ghosts that you have here, they do come with 2 big googly eyes. The thing that I like, yes, they're supposed to be looking to the left. You pair them together the same way. I put mine to look really goofily so that they just kind of look I don't know, very weird. Like they're kind of lost. Like they're kind of, dumb to a certain degree. Like they have no idea that they're about to turn blue and get eaten. Anyway, so that is just the very first part of what we're going to talk about today. So up next, we have the actual Pac-Man machine. This thing is definitely a machine in its own right. Now, in the very front of this thing, you have a very old school style Pac-Man idea that is going on. So, looking at this thing, gorgeous display that is up top of the Pac-Man logo on very large tiles that I have not seen in a long time. I remember them on a little speedboat I had as a kid, but nothing like this that I recall seeing in a very, very long time. Anyway, so you have a black and yellow design color scheme to it, which is, to be expected and standard. You have your high score, your one-ups, you've got all that kind of stuff that is going on. That is to show you, your score and all that kind of stuff, where you are with things. Just gives you an idea. Now, we'll do the drum later so that you'll be able to understand, oh, look, the high score is different or whatnot. So, the game screen itself is just this giant maze, just like in the actual game. You've got all the little dots that you're trying to eat and stuff like that. And so you have those, and then you have your characters here with Pac-Man, with some cherries that are in here, and we'll get to the rest of the stuff here in a little bit. Anyway, so you do have some other tiles that are down here that you can put in there, your cherries and your Pac-Mans and stuff like that. As you come down off the game screen, there is a controller here, a red button top controller. It's gorgeous, little joystick here, and it just has some rubber bushings that are in there to give you that feel of moving into left, right, all those directions. But there are 2 little buttons here. They're brick built, and they are in white. One of them does nothing. It is locked, and the other one actually lights up the coin slot. It is a sticker, by the way, through a light brick. It says 25 cents, insert coin to play. It's awesome. I love it. Then on either side of the joystick, we have these big old tiles here, and they just have some stickers on there of the ghosts and the Pac-Man and that kind of stuff, and it says start game. So as you rotate it around to either side, the sides are identical other than the actual lever that is used to maneuver the chain linkage inside. You have a sticker on each side. The sticker is identical. You have your handle here to run all of your motions on the inside. On the right hand side, when you get to the rear, you have this very Bumblebee-esque color pairing matching as you go down. You have this offset between yellow and black in different spots, and actually looks really, really sharp in the way that it is done. And then you have this giant panel of very overly sized plates. And there is a little kind of a little bar here that you grab and you pull out, and that pulls the entire back end off so you can get to the mechanics of the game. So if you're a repairman, you can repair the game from the back end of things. So I'm going to move that out of the way. And by the way, that just sits in there on 2 little bushings at the bottom of that entire back plate, and then it just gently ball joints into place at the top. So from the rear, we can see the inner workings of this. So in the very top of this, you have your drum that has your scoring stickers on it. It's got a bunch of different scores that are on there, 6,900, 8,400. It has the actual max score of the game on there. So maybe you're going to try and beat it, or I guess in this case, you can only really tie it. Anyway, so there is in the front, we'll get back to when we actually do the function of this and the playing of this, but there is a little spinner gear that you can spin from the front. And what that does is it contacts a little gear back here, goes through an axle and spins the drum in that window so that you can see the sticker roll through however you want it to be. This is a very heavily Technic frame build, as obviously it needs to be. It needs to have some structure and stuff, but you would be surprised how many plates and bricks are in this actual build. I was astonished when I found out exactly what I was building and how it was going together. Obviously, the outside, you don't need to have as much Technic, but still a Technic frame across the top, through the middle, and at the bottom, it's just kind of plates. But the way that everything is attached to the bottom assembly, it still feels like there's a Technic identity there to it. So as we move down towards the bottom of this, you have this big, giant Technic grid. It looks like a battleship grid. If you've ever played the game Battleship, you have these two big black Technic grid pieces. And all you see from the back end, you see some tan bars that are sticking through some Technic pins, and you see some red pins, some white pins, stuff like that. Then you see this gorgeous assembly with gears, with Technic, all kinds of little pieces and bits and bobs, and that goes to the handle. So when you crank the handle one direction, your chain of gears moves one direction. If you choose to go back the other way, your Pac-Man guys go backwards. So maybe you hit the rewind button, and in the Bizarro world, everything starts going backwards. Anyway, so that is your Pac-Man gearing system that is going on. It is very simple. We'll touch on it from the front, because the front is just a bunch of those little chain gears that we saw. I think, was it on the roller coaster was the first time we saw them? Maybe, I can't remember. However, so you do have those that are in the front. There's actually a new gear piece, a new chain gear, if you want to call it that, piece, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But before we get to the rest of that, down here in the belly of the beast, we have this little diorama that you can pull out, and it's only held in by two little studs in here. The rest is all tiled. So you have your minifig that is playing the Pac-Man game that you built. It's almost a direct replica of it. And then she's playing the game. You have this really cool retro tiled floor, which I love, which I guess back then it wasn't tiled. It was carpeted, that incredibly nasty carpet. There is an old style metal stool that is here as well, with a black top on it. There is a candy machine, a little glass top machine there. And there's even a little old style trash can, which are kind of like, you can still see those around. They're just not as often, I guess, in different places these days. Anyway, so let's talk about the minifig, because this is what I really liked. She does have a 5-cent coin. It is a duplicate in here, so you do get an extra coin. She's got long, flowing nougat hair. She does only have the one face. She's smiling, but she has a really cool looking red Pac-Man Ghost shirt on underneath the character, the pink one. And then she has a nicely dark red printed jacket over top of that shirt with a Pac-Man logo up on the breast pocket. It's really, really kind of neat. I'm a big fan of this diorama. They did the same thing with the Atari last year. It's the exact same thing, except you get to hide this baby in the belly of the beast, where in that, when you opened it, it flipped upright. So either way, I'm still a big fan. So after you put the back on here, lock it into place, which is nothing like I said other than clipping a ball joint into position, I'm going to swing this baby back around to the front. Now, I will say, my wife thought, I thought it was going to be bigger than that. And I was like, yeah, honestly, once I started building it and I started realizing the pieces that I was going through, like, okay, I had a rough idea of where the size was. I did expect it to be a little bit taller, maybe just a hair wider. But as far as size goes, it's really not that bad. The nice thing about it is it's not incredibly large that it's not going to be able to go onto a shelf, which is ultimately what everybody wants, right? You want to be able to have these things that you can display and you can, enjoy without having to worry about taking up entirely too much space or too much headroom and stuff like that. So I'm going to grab the lever on the right-hand side, and what you will find is the chain system that is through here. It only goes through a certain point. Now, I had mentioned you had the little dots and stuff just like you do in the game that you are trying to eat. Those are made up of Technic pins going into a Technic pin receiver, and through that, so you have two Technic pins that go into that receiver, and they're all black, by the way, and you have this light tannish colored, sand colored bar that goes the whole way through. So it gives it rigidity, which it really doesn't need, but that is where the color comes from to make those little dots that he is trying to eat. He or she, in this case, I guess it's Pac-Man, not Pac-Woman. I don't know what the Pac-Man Woman game is called. I don't know. Anyway, so that is how you get that. When I was going through it, I didn't quite understand why am I having to make 64 of these things. Like my fingers were numb trying to do that. I'm like, oh my God. Because then you also have to technically pin the other end of it into the receiving slot. So you have that whole big thing. Anyway, the rest where you do not, that is where the red pins are. Okay, the tops of the red pins. And that is where you are placing your tiles. You have tiles in the L shape and just the 1x2s. You have them in the 2x2s. You have them in the 2x3s. And you have all these tiles all over the place. That is where it's giving you your game grid that you are essentially playing through. So you have your 4 bad guys, your ghosts that are in here. You have 1 pair of cherries. You have your Pac-Man guy as well. So when you go to do this, he will not eat any of the dots and stuff like that. That is not a thing here. But when you start rotating this thing, you will get to see the pattern. You can, depending what your light looks like, you can even see the gearing mechanism inside as well. Now, I will tell you this before I move any further. It is imperative when you do place things in a certain spot in here, as far as the chain goes, make sure you follow it to a T. I say that for this reason. When you originally connect the chain sections in there, you're going to have a moment where you're like, there's way too much play in the chain. Had that happen in the haunted house, if you recall when we did that build and that review, the elevator, it was a problem. It was sliding off the chain because there wasn't enough tension on the chain because there was an extra link or two that wasn't really needed. Because all parts are not made equal, right? Just like you and I are not made equal, we are messing with parts that are made of plastic, even though they're made from very accurate machines still. So make sure when they say 11, 11, 11, 11, however they want you to put them all together, make sure you do exactly that. Not one more, not one less. Because if you do one more, it's not going to work. If you do one less, you're not going to have, you're going to have too much tension and nothing's going to move if it even connects. So we are talking about these small little chain pieces in black here. They clip onto the next piece, the next piece, the next piece. So those new chain pieces that they have the piece, the individual chain segment piece, and then it has a black bar that sticks out the side of it. And that is how it is used here. That is where your bad guys, that's where your cherries, that's where all of this stuff is, like your ghosts and stuff are clipped onto. It is just in a position on there. So that's a really neat idea. Obviously you needed a piece. So as you rotate this thing around, again, you can see the position that they're going through. You do have 2 different chain segments. You don't just have one, you have 2. You have one that has 3 of your ghosts. It has pink, red, orange, Pac-Man, and the other one has just the blue ghost. Now, some people are going to say, well, I don't like that. That's not how I wanted it. Well, unfortunately, it is the way it is. It's meant to look like, it's being played that way and it's supposed to be fun and stuff. Now, the other thing is your orange ghost that is in the middle, that is stuck inside of that block, is just rotating back and forth. There is a mechanism back there where we were talking about the drivetrain and everything back here for this. And it's just moving it back and forth. It's not going anywhere. Same with your cherries. It's just popping your cherries back and forth as if it's like, hey, look at my cherries. Look at my cherries. Come get the cherries. Come get them. Come get them. That's all that's going on. So the mechanism is really smooth. It's a lot of fun to be able to play with. It's a lot of fun to be able to mess with. I'm just a big fan of the way it was done. How it looks is another thing. It's just incredibly well done. I'm super impressed. There's really not an issue that I had building the gearing assembly, the chain assembly, where I was like, I am going to get lost. Take your time. I want to say this was 14 bags, I believe. Not incredibly large amount. The first 2 bags, maybe even, I think it's just the first 2, are to make the little desktop ornament. The last bag, if I'm not mistaken, was pretty much just building the little diorama that's on the inside. But my goodness, it is such a creative idea to be able to take from a classic game. It's just incredibly well done. And I did forget to mention, I told you I would mention this. So you can turn the little turnstile gear up here and it'll adjust your score that's up here. So I have the numbers of 6,900, 8,400. I have 10,275, which if you are wondering, I'm not quite sure if that is supposed to be something else or not. It almost reminds because Icons is paired 1000 series, but we're in, this one was 10323. So we're already beyond that. I was thinking, it might give us a hint to what's on the inside now or coming soon. Anyway, and the other one is 3,600. The high score, I forgot, does not move. That is in here. It says high score 16,440. Of course, you don't get a chance to beat it. But if you still can find your own Pac-Man machine, by all means, go ahead and give it a shot. But it seems incredibly difficult to do. So as a whole, I thought the build was a lot of fun. I really appreciated the design techniques and the engineering that went behind what was going on with this assembly of the chain rails, the linkages, the scoring drum, just everything that was involved with that was just a nice, simple follow design. I was just blown away with, I understand it's an Icon set, but I could have probably given it to my 13-year-old and said, here, Finn, go ahead and do this, because of how precise and detailed the instructions were. As well as I have, instructions sometimes have sucked. I cannot say that about this. I didn't run into a snafu at all where I thought, oh my God, I can't figure out what in the heck is going on. It helps with the colors. And then I think it also helps with a lot of the block building that we're doing with the outside and stuff like that. But then also the interior gearing and all that. Everything just felt right. I felt like I was getting enough of everything. Now I know you're waiting to see what I say about the price. The price is the price is the price. I can't remember what that movie is. I think it's the movie Taken. The price is the price. When he's on the street corner trying to... Anyway. Moving along. I think the price is honestly okay. For what you're getting a very large set. And here's the other thing. There's a lot of big tiles that are in the back. There's 6 of them. You have a lot of very large brick slopes. You have tiles that are on the side. You have tiles across the top. You have the big chunky plastic grids, those 2 big Technic chunky plastic grids. If you're looking at it in the amount of plastic you're getting, I think it's well within. Brickset has it listed at 10 cents per. If you remove those, that would increase, yes, your plastic, or not your plastic amount, your piece count. But I think because you would then be moving from just a simple, big, chunky tile, big old tile, you would have bricks or other plates and stuff like that, which are going to be more plastic, which are going to cost more. So I think this is in the right wheelhouse. I can't remember what the NES was. I believe it was something similar around this. The Atari, I think, was maybe a little bit cheaper. But my God, if you are a video game collector, if you are somebody that is a retro game collector, if you're somebody that's just a Lego Icons collector, somebody who likes to put stuff on a shelf, I would say do it. My only recommendation would be if you are planning on buying this and putting it out on a shelf, we all know how dust works. The minute that you move, dust is coming off of you. It's just the way the body works. It's the way everything works. I implore you to put a dust cover over it. Find one, make one, throw a towel over it. That's what I did when I was waiting to do the review. Just because, I have animals. Animals have dander. Humans, we slough off our scales. I slough off my scales all the time, don't you know? No, what I mean is you slough off skin cells. That was a mouthful. So ultimately, you're going to have dust. There's no way around it. But the reason I mention all of that is because of the all black interior here with the plain grid surface and everything. It's going to not look great if it's filled with dust. If you want to put it on a shelf, just throw a clear dust cover, a white dust cover over it. And, you got some friends coming over. Hey, you got to see this thing. Then it's like, you got that like music playing in the background where it's like, as you pull it up, that music is playing and they're like, oh my God. Yeah. That's what you want, right? Or maybe you put some glowing light like up in front of it, kind of, or even on the sides, making this thing kind of glow. I don't know. You people that are smarter out there with light know what I'm talking about. Anyway, as a whole, I think it really turned out well. I think anybody that is on the fence about it, if you know somebody that bought it, go check it out. I guarantee you, if you go to a Lego store, they have one on display. Take a look at it. If you know the store manager well enough, or if you're kind enough and you say, hey, is there any way that I could just get a closer look if they could pull it out of the window for a moment? They will gladly do it. Most of the times, they don't always build this stuff. Sometimes it does come built. Sometimes one of the employees has to build it. Just go ahead. Just go ahead and ask if you're curious before you drop the $270, €270. Just go ahead and ask. If they say no, they say no. So hopefully I can shoot some content on this. I would really like to. I'm having fun with Instagram, just trying some things, and hopefully some more things will roll out in the future. But that is going to do it as far as the review goes. Before we go, remember, Brick World Chicago is coming around in less than 2 weeks is where we are at. Less than 2 weeks. June 17th and 18th, Brick World Chicago is at the Schaumburg Convention Center. I don't have the address here on hand. But if you are curious about going, get onto their website, get your tickets, single day admission, but get your tickets and go. If you want, save yourself some money. I've already shared this. It's been in the show description now for, my God, probably weeks now. Use the code BRICKSKING, BRICKSKING. I believe it has to be capitalized, and save yourself some money. I will be there Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I will be there most of the day Sunday until it's time to pack up and get ready to go and be on my way back here to good old Texas. Anyway, so that's going to wrap up the show. Hopefully you enjoyed it. We have Jurassic Park stuff coming up next on the next episode. So until we meet again, I'm your minifig host, Matt. Let's build on it.